Recording in progress.
Okay, good evening everyone. Shalom Aleichem, Bruchim Habayim. We're continuing our Shiurim in Sefer Vayikra. The Shiurim in Sefer Vayikra are graciously sponsored by Dr. Zakheim Umishpachta, Lila Nishmas, Reb Shlomo Yazben, Reb Yaakov Zakheim, Lila Nishmas, Dr. Zakheim's mother, Rivka Bas Tzvi Halevi, and Reb David ben Reb Yaakov Tzvi Hakoyin, Began Eden, Teimenu Chasim. They should be Melitza Yisham for their whole family. Ad Bias Goel Tzedek. Tonight's Shir is dedicated by my dear friend Reb Eli Sizma, Leiloi Nishmas, his father, whose yahrzeit is coming up. Shavach Shabsi ben Yaakov Aryeh. Reb Eli has been coming to my shiurim for very many years. I think since I started, about 15 years ago. So on this occasion, we're Mavarich Reb Eli, his father's Neshama Shabbat Aliyah, should be a Me'el Yosef for his whole family. Ad Bias Goel Tzedek. Okay, if you didn't get it yet, you want to get this before Pesach. You could get it after Pesach, I don't mind. You could get it for Lag BaOmer, you could get it for Shavuos, you could learn it the whole night in Shavuos. It's going to work better if you have it for Pesach. So this is available in better bookstores near you. If you want to in Lashon HaKodesh, it's different in Lashon HaKodesh. There's more stuff in the Lashon HaKodesh. There's different material in each that is now available. Now, we're going to talk about publishing Sfarim, but the next one in the queue, The Fire in the Soul. It was submitted to ArtScroll, and this morning I got a call from ArtScroll. It says The Fire in the Soul, they want to change the name. So why do you want to change the name? We have a series already, you know, The Mystery and the Majesty, The Light and the Splendor. No, we're changing the name. I got a call. You know, you want to be open-minded, you need to be flexible. I was like, okay, what are we going to call this? They said we have to have the words Lag BaOmer in the title. Otherwise, people are going to come to the bookstore. They're going to say, I want a book on Lag BaOmer. They're going to see The Fire in the Soul, and they're not going to put two and two together. The name of the book is Lag BaOmer. I said, yeah, but it has to fit into the series. So the new name of the book, V'yikar Shema B'Yisrael, Lag BaOmer, The Fire in the Soul. Okay, that's the new name of the book. If you want to participate in this, there are many sources. Shlomo Melch says, Asoy Sfarim Harbe Ein Kates. Make many books, the end is not here. The Abarbanel and many others learn that until the requisite number of Sfarim come out, Mashiach can't come. That the number one thing, Abarbanel writes, others write, the number one thing holding up Mashiach, we need more books. You think books, Asoy Sfarim Harbe Ein Kates, there are enough books already. Many interpret the pasuk that we need more Sfarim, which obviously works out when you're trying to fund the next book. You know, that works out conveniently, that pshat. But it is a legitimate perush. The Abarbanel says, Asoy Sfarim Harbe, make many books, Ein Kates. Okay, tonight we're going to talk about the commentary of the Ben Ish Chai on the Haggadah. Now, the Ben Ish Chai was one of the all-time great prolific writers, and in fact, he writes very powerful words about the importance of participating in Sfarim and writing Sfarim. And he says that anyone who has the capability, chayiv adam sheyesh lo chiburim l'hishtadel lahadfis oisem chayiv, to try to put it out in your lifetime. But then they found, and then Rabbi Yaakov Hillel's official biography on the Ben Ish Chai, he found in a bibliography in Paris that the Ben Ish Chai was in very dire straits, and he wrote a letter to someone saying that he has no money, but as painful as it is that he cannot support his family, even more painful is that he's not able to put out all the chiburim that he wants. He says, Kasha alai tsar zeh yoser mitzar doiche karpanasa. The pain of not being able to put out his Sfarim is worse than not being able to support his family. And it's not like the Ben Ish Chai. The Ben Ish Chai had already put it out many, many Sfarim. And therefore the Ben Ish Chai had an ancient Sefer Torah. And he was willing, he writes in this letter, I'm willing, the Sefer Torah is so small, the klaf is as thin as the shell of an egg. Kekilpei b'tsalim, it's handwritten, it took 5 years to write, it's hundreds of years old, and he's willing to sell it, to procure funds, to publish his Sfarim. So one of the Sfarim that the Ben Ish Chai published is the Sefer Oirach Chaim. Oirach Chaim is the Ben Ish Chai's commentary to Haggadah Shel Pesach. tonight I want to share with you 10 amazing insights from the Ben Ish Chai, from Haggadah, Rabbi Yosef Chaim of Baghdad, on Haggadah Shel Pesach. We all know, we say in the Haggadah, Va'afilu kulanu chachamim, kulanu nevainim, kulanu yodim asatar. Even if we're all wise, we're all intelligent, we all know the Torah. Mitzvah aleinu l'saper b'yitzias Mitzrayim. There's a mitzvah to relate the events of Yitzias Mitzrayim. V'chal hamar b'lesaper. The more we speak, hareza meshubach. So the Ben Ish Chai says the following remez. Even though, you go to yeshiva, you say, well, why did Hashem take us out of Mitzrayim? Because we were being enslaved. And why do we have to go down there? Because Avram Avinu questioned the ways of Hashem. But there's a Kabbalistic idea, and we spoke about this at length once, that we had to go and gather sparks of Kedusha. We spoke about this in many different angles. How many sparks of Kedusha were lost in Mitzrayim? Isaac? 288. We got to get Reish Peches, right? And then 202 are lost over there. We had to collect sparks of Kedusha. Okay, where did these sparks come from? So there's a Kabbalistic idea that when Adam Harishon separated from his wife, he was Moitzi Zera, and to a certain extent he wasted seed, and that was somehow dispersed in the land of Mitzrayim. Fine. So when the Pasuk says that we went out with great wealth, it means we took out these sparks. This is what it means, Vayinatzlu es Mitzrayim, we emptied out Mitzrayim. Now, you ready for this? How many names does God have? There's an idea that 72 different names. There are 3 consecutive psukim in Parshas B'Shalach that have 72 letters each. These 3 consecutive psukim of 72 letters each are created with the following formula. When Moshe Rabbeinu was about to split the Yam Suf, it says Vayet, Vayisa, Vayavoy, 3 consecutive psukim of 72 letters each, which is, the likelihood of having 3 consecutive psukim with 72 letters each is impossible. You have a document, to have 3 consecutive psukim of 72 letters each. So Rashi brings the Masechta Sukkah. If you take the first letter of the first pasuk, the last letter of the second pasuk, the first letter of the third pasuk, you get one name. By the way, that name is Vahai. That's one name of God, Vav He Vav. Another name of God is the 37th name of God is Aleph, Nun, Yud, Ani. So the 37th letter of the first pasuk, the 37th to last of the second, the 37th of the third is Ani. Okay? You could get 72 different names this way. We once gave a shiur on the significance of these 72 different names. One of them is Ayin Nun Vav, one of them is Yud Lamed Yud. Obviously, the greatest one is Daled Nun Yud, Dani, which is my name, my parents didn't realize that, but the holiest 3 letters are Daled Nun Yud. That's the 50th name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's 72 different names of Hashem. What is name 68? Samach 68. You ready for this? Ches Beis Vav. It comes from the pasuk Chayil Bala Vayikaenu. It's a pasuk in Eiv. Ches Beis Vav. The 3 letters Ches Beis Vav is the name of God that extracts kedusha that's trapped in the dark side. In case you need to go on one of these missions of extracting lost souls fallen into the abyss, you never know where you have to go in life. If you need to extract lost souls that fall into the abyss, you need the name Ches Beis Vav that come from Chayil Bala Vayikaenu. It is the 68th name of God. The 68th name, by the way, the 72nd name of God, the last one is Mem Vav Mem, Mum. And that's significant. Maybe one day we'll talk about that. I remember many years ago, I met the Shvilei Pinchas, or Pinchas Friedman, and he told me he was going to write a sefer on the significance of all 72 names of God. He was going to call it Av Kal, Ayin Beis, 72. So I would love to see something like that. Anyway, the 68th name of God is what? Ches Beis Vav. What does it do? Now, what's the gematria of Ches Beis Vav? 16. You ever hear there's an expression, sweet 16? Nobody knows where it comes from. So it's one of the great mysteries of life. People think it has something to do with college sports, a certain age. No, sweet 16 is the power of the 68th name of Hashem, Ches Beis Vav. Now we know where the word Pesach comes from. Pei, here, Samaches. Here's where we use the 68th name of God. Here is where we used the 68th. You could go right now. I challenge you. Open up a Beshalach, go to the 3 consecutive psukim that have 72 letters. You take the 68th letter of the first, the 68th to last of the second, the 68th of the third, and you get Ches Beis Vav. Ches Beis Vav. By the way, the Gemara asks that one of the ingredients used on the ka'ara is chasa. The Gemara says, why do we use chasa? Dechas rachmana alan, God had mercy on us. So we just take it for granted. Mercy is chesamach. What's the numerical value of chesamach? 68. Because God used His 68th name to yank us out of Mitzrayim. What is the name? Chavu, Ches Beis Vav. You know what it stands for? Chachma, Bina, Vadas. Chachma, Bina, Vadas. Where is that? That's in the mind. Where is the zera of a person created? Kabbalistically, a person's zera is created in the mind. And biologically, they finally discovered that the pituitary gland controls the creation of the zera. So Kabbalistically, the zera is rooted in Chachma Bina Vadas. That's why this name is able to be mevarer the zera. Therefore we say, Afilu kulanu chachamim ches. Nevoinim Bina Beis. Yoidim Vadas, that's the Vav. That's the emphasis on Chachma Bina Vadas. What are you? If you're Marbel L'Saper B'Yitzias Mitzrayim, you're Meshubach. Meshubach is the letters Shem, Ches, Beis, Vav. Now it's not like you're going to come up, or you would have come up with this. You don't need to be kicking yourself. Hey, why did I think of this? No, don't. If you're telling, I almost had that one. No. If you almost had that one, that would be amazing. But the Ben Ish Chai says he's uncovered the significance of the name Pesach. Pesach, Poi, here is where we find Samach Ches, the 68th name of God. What is it? Ches Beis Vav, Chavu, which is Chachma, Bina, Vadas. That's the secret of Kulanu Chachamim, Kulanu Nevoinim, Kulanu Yoidim Es HaTorah. If you're Mesaper B'Tzias Mitzrayim, you're Meshubach, Shem, Ches Beis Vav. That's a good one, no? That's a good one. Next. Why is it called Pesach?
Pesach.
Because God jumped over our house. So what, you just decided to give it a name? What's the name the Torah gives it? Chag HaMatzos. Every single time the Torah refers to Yom Tov, it's Chag HaMatzos, Chag HaMatzos, Chag HaMatzos. It doesn't refer. One time it calls it Pesach. It says Zevach Chag HaPasach. Everywhere else it's Chag HaMatzos. So why do we refer to it as Pesach? Why is the Masechta called Psachim? Why do Chazal referred in the Mishnayos, in the Braisos as Psachim? It should be called Chag HaMatzos. So the Ben Ish Chai says as follows. We have many mitzvahs that we do on Pesach. We eat matzah. How much matzah? Kazayis. The Noid Behuda says the kazesim shrunk. So we eat 2 kazesim. And then we eat again for afikoymen. But more than 4 kazesim, nobody says you should eat. How about 4 cups of wine? You drink 4 cups of wine. It doesn't have to contain more than a revius. So you take the biggest share. Go like the Chazon Ish. What's the Chazon Ish's revius? 86 ounces? That's pretty big.
4.3.
4.3? 5.4? I don't remember. I go like Ramosha. Ramosha by D'Rabbanans, 3.3 ounces. By Doiraisa, I believe 4.42. So this, if it's Kiddush Friday night, you need a little bit of a bigger kais. If it's regular Pesach, only 3.3. This year, I went to Ir HaKodesh Lakewood. I got myself, I'm not sure if I'm going to use it yet, because it's not, I got a perfect kais, a stainless. Now, here's another thing. People go to a Kiddush, right? And generally they're observant Jews. They keep Shabbos. They keep Taras HaMishpacha. They eat kosher. All of a sudden when it comes to a Kiddush, they forgot that they had a bris milah, and you don't have to keep halach anymore. You can make Kiddush on schnapps. Kiddush on schnapps? But you're Jewish. You have to make Kiddush on wine. When God gave the Torah to Moshe Rabbeinu, He said, you make Kiddush on wine. All of a sudden, you do all the mitzvah. You eat gefilte fish, you eat matzah balls, you do all the important things. So why, when it comes to Kiddush, don't you want to do a kalacha? A, you can't make Kiddush on schnapps. B, it has to be on at least 3.3 ounces. And C, you can't use a plastic cup. And the guy's a multimillionaire. He drives a new car every week. He can't afford a cup for $3. All of a sudden he has to use a plastic cup. Get yourself a normal cup. Now you have to eat at the Kiddush, so buy a cup and put it in your pocket. Get a belt and strap yourself to it. This way you could make Kiddush on Shabbos. You do everything. What? Leave it in your talus bag. Anyway, I got a stainless steel cup that's 3.8 ounces. So now people say, I can't drink wine. All of a sudden, the rest of the year, every Shabbos Keseder, they drink, mamish like light. And it comes the Leil Seder, and they can't take Rashi wine, which is basically like grape soda, and they can't drink 3.3 ounce, brave of the 3.3 ounces. They have allergies, and they're allergic, and they're going to have hay fever. Every other Kiddush, I don't know how they even fit that amount of beverage into them. So it's better, you should try to drink wine for the Seder. You should get a cup at least 3.3 ounces and drink most of it. Anyway, that was just like a side point. But what I'm getting at is that when it comes to all the mitzvahs of Pesach, they have a shear, they have a set amount. The set amount is a shear. Matzah is a kazayas. Daled koisais is a revius. But when it comes to Sipur Yitzias Mitzrayim, there's no max. You could call marbe, hareza meshubach. You could pull an all-nighter. So therefore, the name of the Yom Tov is Pesach. Pesach is a compound word. Pesach, the mouth that speaks. Because of all the mitzvahs that we do the night of the Seder, and over Pesach, this mitzvah is expansive, it's endless, there's no set amount. Okay, here's the third idea. Lashon HaKodesh is a unique language. The words have genders. It's an amazing thing. The words have genders. There's masculine and feminine words. Laila is feminine. In Hebrew, any word that ends in a kamas and then a hey is feminine. Okay? Manishta. Okay, so I have one simple question. V'hayu misaprim b'yitzias Mitzrayim kol oisoi halayla. Remember the rabbis? Maisa, how does it go? Maisa, Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shua, Rabbi Azariah, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Tarfain. They were Mesubin, Bivnei Brak. And they were pulling an all-nighter. But why does it say they were Mesaprim b'tzias Mitzrayim kol oisoi halayla? Oisoi, is that Zachar or Nekeva? Zachar. It should say kol oisa halayla. You ever bothered by that question? Or you skip that paragraph? You say that? It's in the Art Scroll Haggadah. I don't see why you would. It's in the Art. Let me check. The Art Scroll has that. It says kol oisa halayla. So why does it say oisa halayla? It should say oisoi halayla. This is the question of the Ben Ish Chai. Says the Ben Ish Chai, when it says they were talking about that night, it wasn't talking about that night 1,500 years ago. It was talking about that night 3,300 years ago. The night they left Egypt. Now we have a tradition from the Zohar HaKadosh. The night they left Egypt, Laila Kayom Yoyer. The night was illuminated like the day. The day is masculine because it's light. But if you had a night that was illuminated, it would also be masculine. So therefore, it says they were mesaper b'yitzias mitzrayim kol oisa halayla, that night, his night, referring to the very night that they left Egypt. It was referring to that very night, that Laila Kayom Yair, and they were speaking about the various shemois and spherois that were utilized on that night to bring about all the miracles. Okay, now here's a whopper. You ready for a whopper? I thought so. Rabbi Glatstein ben Azariah. He was appointed in the highest position of the Jewish people. What position was that?
Nasi.
The Nasi. How old was he?
18.
He's 18 years old. On that day, he got his driver's license. On the same day, trivia question: Which Tana became the Nasi and got his driver's license the same day? Rabbi Glatstein ben Azariah. I'm as if I'm 70 years old. Why as if? He was really 18 and his hair grew white. It's very interesting. The Gemara says that on that day that he was appointed the Nasi, they changed the policy in the Beis Medrash. Until he was the Nasi, by the way, who was the Nasi before Rabbi Glatstein ben Azariah? Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Gamliel had a policy. Policy was called Talmud she'ein toichei kabaroi al yikanes beis hamedrash. Any student who is not on the inside like he is on the outside is it can't enter. Any hypocrites had to stay outside. So basically nobody was allowed in. Who could pass that test? Right? Everybody's better on the outside than the inside. Everyone acts better on the outside than the inside. Right? Where everybody in public, they have this like fake persona, and then behind closed doors, there's somebody else. That's human nature. Everybody's like that. So Reb Gamliel basically had X-ray vision. He would look at you and he would say, no, pal, stay outside. He would only let in a select few. The day that he was demoted and Rabbi Glatstein ben Azariah became the Nasi, the Gemara says that they added either 400 benches or 700 benches. That means thousands of new Talmud, like the entire... there are hundreds of students, not hundreds, thousands. 400 benches. How many could fit on a bench? In the young Israel, how many people? What? 5 on a bench. At least 1,000 Talmidim were allowed in. And Rabbi Glatstein ben Azariah was allowed entrance. Rabbi Glatstein ben Azariah was appointed the Nasi, and all of a sudden the doors were open wide. By the way, in past years, we said that it's very important to start the Seder with the demotion of Rabbi Gamliel and the promotion of Rabbi Glatstein ben Azariah. Because the night of the Seder, we got to bring in a lot of kids to the table. We got to bring in Chacham, we got to bring in the Rasha, we got to bring in a Tam, we got to bring in a Sheni Yadei Elisha. If Rabbi Gamliel is standing at the door, how many of those kids are getting into the house? 1 out of 4. So the first thing we got to do to start the Seder is we got to demote Rabbi Gamliel. Amar Rabbi Glatstein ben Azariah, Harei ani kiven shema. Bring in Rabbi Glatstein ben Azariah. Oh, Rabbi Glatstein ben Azariah! Keneged arba banim dibra Torah. Now everybody could come into the house. Okay. But why is it that Rabbi Glatstein ben Azariah's appointment signaled this open door policy? So the Ben Ish Chai quotes Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz. I've been trying to figure this out the whole night. Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz quotes a Medrash and a Gemara. There is no, I don't think there's a Gemara. I don't think it's in the Gemara. And I can't find it in the Medrash. If anyone out there knows where this is, please let me know. I did a search. Every time you search this Medrash, the only Mar Makom that comes up are all the editions of Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz. Meaning, I don't know, maybe he saw a Medrash that we don't have anymore. But basically, there's a pasuk in Daniel that says, the hair of his head was like wool. And there are 2 different perushim in that. Just like wool on the inside is like the outside, so too a student on the inside has to be like the outside. Another pshat is like wool. Just like wool is nice when it's white, it's nice to have a Rosh Yeshiva with white hair. When someone has white hair, then all of a sudden, people have respect for them. But if you have black hair, nobody takes you seriously. What's the guy talking about? It's black hair. It's a young guy. But if you have white hair, what happens when the hair turns white? Who knows? But when you have white hair, then people listen to you. So basically, there are two perushim in the Pasuk in Daniel. White hair on the head, white like wool. Either it means you have to be toichai kabaroi, you have to be on the inside like the outside, or it means you have to have white hair. Now originally, Ram Gamliel was the Nasi. And when Ram Gamliel was the Nasi, they held you have to be on the inside like the outside. And if you have to be on the inside like the outside, then you don't have to have white hair. So when they appointed Rebbe Eliezer ben Azariah, they figured, look, the main thing is to be on the inside like the outside. But when his hair turned white the day he became the Nasi, so they now learned that the true pshat in this drasha is that it's good for Rosh Yeshiva to have white hair. And it's not important to be on the inside like the outside. Says, oh, it's not important to be on the inside like the outside. Now we could open up the doors to everyone. You see, there are two possible interpretations of white hair like wool. Either be on the inside like the outside, or literally have white hair. So at first they thought, here, if we bring in a young guy, that means you don't need to have white hair. You must need to be on the inside like the outside. But when his hair turned white, that must mean that Shamayim interprets that the correct way to look at it is it's good to have white hair, and it's not relevant to be on the inside like the outside. Okay, now this is the king. This is the whopper. This is the real whopper. We'll call it the double whopper. Okay, you ready for this? Fasten your seatbelts. How many kids are there? 4 kids. Wise kid, wicked kid, Tam, any day Lishal. I always wondered, there's a conspicuously absent kid. Where's the kid who's a tzaddik? Where's the righteous kid? And the answer is exactly. There's no such thing as a righteous kid. A righteous kid. You could have a smart kid. You could have a bad kid. You could have a simple kid. You could have a kid who can't formulate a question. But righteous is a lifetime's work. It takes a whole lifetime to become righteous. Anyway, the Ben Ish Chai quotes the Baal Maseh Hashem. Now, I think we brought up the Maseh Hashem last week. Now, if you want to join us for this coming Lag BaOmer, we're going to Krakow for the yard site of the Ramah. And when we're there, we're going to visit Megala Amukais and the Toisus Yamtif and the Bach and the Baal Maseh Hashem. The Maseh Hashem was Rabbi Eliezer Ashkenazi. He reveals that these 4 kids are actually 4 characters in the Chumash. Who's the Chacham? Yitzchak. Yitzchak? What did Yitzchak ask? He said, Dad, I have a question. I see the fire. I see the wood. Where's the seh? Pretty sharp question. Yitzchak was the wise kid. Who's the wicked kid? Esav. Esav's like, he sees that Yaakov's scared to death of him, scared stiff. He's sending him gifts. And he's like, who are all these gifts for? Esav knew who they were for. He knew that Yaakov was bribing him. That's the question of the wicked kid. He knew it's a rhetorical question. He knew the answer to that question. He was like rubbing it in, like, you see what you have to do to flatter me? Who's the Ish Tam?
Yeah.
What does the Tam say in the Haggadah? Remember his question in the Haggadah? He can't formulate. He says, Ma zois. Did you know Yaakov said Ma zois? In the next morning, when he says, Rachel, Mazel Tov, and Leah says, name's Leah. Leah to you. Well, Yaakov goes to love and he says, Mazois! The Tam is the Ish Tam, Yaakov Avinu. And who's the She'eno Yidei Lishal? Yishmael. never asked any questions in the whole Chumash. The Ben Ish Chai says that he cannot make heads or tails on this approach, because what are we saying? Blessed is Hashem that He gave the Torah to Klal Yisrael. Why are we talking about Esav? Why are we talking about Yishmael? He quotes the Sefer Matei Aharon, who gives a deeper interpretation of the above. But I thought it was very interesting that there's an approach to the Haggadah that these 4 banim correspond to 4 notable personalities in Sefer Bereshis. Okay, next question of the Ben Ish Chai. Ben Ish Chai says, how many dayenos are there? I think 15, right? 15 dayenos. And we say, if God had not brought us to Eretz Yisrael, v'lo yivana lanu es beis habechira, dayeno. Now, do we say anything about the Beis HaMikdash? That's very interesting. Now I understand why I never understood the Ben Ish Chai's question, because we don't have his girsa in the Haggadah. He asks, why do we say Ilu hechnisanu le'eretz Yisrael v'lo banu lanu es beis hamikdash? And then when we say alachas kama v'kama hechilanu es haman v'nas lanu es hashabos v'kavan l'fnei har Sinai v'nas lanu es haTorah v'chnisanu le'eretz Yisrael u'banu beis habechira. Why is it first called the Beis Hamikdash and then called the Beis Habechira? And I was like scratching my head. Really? Where does it say Beis Hamikdash? We don't have it. The art scroll doesn't have it. But the Chidah didn't have this Haggadah. It wasn't out yet. So in the Chidah's Gersa of the Haggadah, first it said Beis Hamikdash, and then it said Beis Habechira. So he says as follows. There are 2 Batei Mikdashim. One is the one that is created by flesh and blood, by man. That's called Beis Hamikdash. The second one is Maseh Shamayim. That's called Beis Habechira. Anybody know why the Beis Hamikdash is called Beis Habechira? Bechira stands for Bachar Ka, right? God selected. That's the Beis Hamikdash Shamala. Now, it's dependent on our Beis Hamikdash. If we're Zoicha to build a proper Beis Hamikdash, then Rebbeinu Shalom will bring down the Beis Hamikdash Min HaShamayim. So first we say, if God would have only brought us into Eretz Yisrael, and He didn't build the Beis Hamikdash, dayenu. And by building the Beis Hamikdash, we're grateful. But not only did God build the Beis Hamikdash, He even built Beis Habechira, the Mikdash Shamala. Fine. Next, there's a famous Brisker Rav. I don't want you to go home without hearing a piece of Torah from the Brisker Rav, because you can go home and your wife's going to say, "No, what did you learn?" And you can say, "I learned this Dvar Torah, that Dvar Torah." She said, "Divrei Torah? Did you learn Brisker Torah? I sent you out. When you come back, with something substantial. Did you learn Brisker Torah?" So this way you say, "Of course." You know that it's interesting. The Brisker Rav has a famous shita that you're yotzei the mitzvah of Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim by learning Hilchos Pesach. Even without narrative, by learning halacha, you're yotzei the mitzvah of Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim. There are 2 famous accounts of Siddharim. You have the account of Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Zamazariah and Rav Tarfain in Bnei Brak. And what were they doing? They were telling the story. And there's a Tosefta that Ram Gamliel spent the whole night learning Hilchos Pesach. And that seems to indicate that even learning halacha is also a way to fulfill the mitzvah of Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim. So Ben Ish Chai says, take the word Pesach. Pesach, let's split it in half. Pei is what? 80. So what's Pei becomes 2 mems. And Samach becomes 2 lameds. 60 becomes 2 30s. And Ches becomes 2 daleds. Lamed. There are 2 learnings on Pesach. One is speaking about the miracles, and one is learning the Torah. Now it's interesting, the Chassam Sofer vehemently argues on the Brisker Rav. He says, it's a nice thing to learn halacha, you are not mekayim the mitzvah of Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim by learning halacha. But it could be, we see, according to the Ben Ish Chai, the significance of the gematria Pesach, it's lamed twice, there are two things you need to do. You need to learn the halacha and you need to tell the story. Okay? The next one is out of this world. I love this one. There are many things that people do for other people in their avodas Hashem, but they don't do it for themselves. In other words, question. Don't answer this question, but just laugh when you hear it, okay? Do you daven better when you daven at home without a minyan, or do you daven better when you learn with a minyan? Just curious. Where do you daven better? When do you bench better? If someone's sitting next to you watching you, or when nobody's watching you? Don't answer the question, just chuckle, because you know exactly what I mean. Okay? Rav Miller once was benching, and he was sitting next to somebody. After he finished benching, he said to the other guy, "Thank you for the benching." So the guy said, "What do you mean? I didn't bench, you benched." Rav Miller said, "But I benched better because you were next to me." So he had the honesty to admit what, hopefully we would all admit, that a lot of things we do solely for other people. But for ourselves, we're not. So that means we're doing it for someone else. We're not doing it for ourselves. Says the Ben Ish Chai, this explains the Lashain. B'chol dar vadar chayiv adam laharois es atzmoi kilu yatzim mitzrayim. In every generation, you need to show yourself like you left Egypt. Don't do it to show your wife. Don't do it to show your kids. Don't do it to show your husband. You don't do it only as a show for someone else. You know who you need to show it to? Yourself. That's how you read it. B'chol dar vadar chayiv adam laharois es atzmoi kilu yatzim mitzrayim. The Rambam's Ger says laharois. But even in that shita, the emphasis on atzmoi, the purpose is not to show it to others, you got to show yourself. Next. Okay. Maybe the only intelligent thing that the UN ever said is that they said that since World War II, the most difficult thing the world ever had to face was COVID-19. You could think about that, whether that is true or not. But there was one thing that was easier about COVID-19, and that everyone was facing the same thing. It's not like, oh, he had it or she had it. The whole world had it. There's a psychology and a phenomenon. It's called Saras Rabim Chatzi Nechama. The pain that the community goes through is half a consolation. Meaning, when I have a difficulty and I think I'm the only guy in the world that has this difficulty, then it's very painful. But if I know, that's why they have support groups. What are support groups? Yeah, pal, you're not the only person who has this issue. You're not the only, out of the 6 billion people in the world, you're not the only one who has this issue. A lot of people have this issue. There's a phenomenon called Tsaras Rabim Chatzi Nechama. The pain of the community is half a consolation. Now, the night of the Seder, if you're going to think, oh yeah, 3 million people were in Egypt, it's going to be hard to fully rejoice, because you're going to think, okay, it was bad, but I was together with another 3 million Jews. That's why the Haggadah says, Chayiv Adam Lahar Atzmai Ki'ilu Hu Yatzami Mitzrayim. Why does it say as if who? The word who is extra. It should say Ki'ilu Yatzami, as if he left Egypt. What's the emphasis? Ki'ilu Hu, as if he left Egypt. Imagine yourself, therefore, says Machon, like you were the only one there. Because imagine yourself, you're the only one there, you don't have the support system that the other people were with you, and then you could rejoice more intensely that Hashem took you out. So the word who is not extra. It's don't just imagine that you were in Egypt. Imagine you're the only one who was in Egypt. This way, if everyone's suffering, then it's good to be free, but it wasn't it's not as good as if you would have been the only one. Fine. We go on, two more little things. We say, before the second kais, Lefikach anachnu chayavim lahodos, lahalel, l'shabeach, l'roimim, lahader, levarech, la'alei, ulekales. Now apparently the Ben Ish Chai didn't use the art scroll Haggadah because he's bothered. Why are there 7 Lashonos? Lahodos, lahalel, l'shabeach, l'fa'er, l'roimim, lahader, levarech, la'alei, ulekales. He says there, that's 9. Lahalel, lahodos, lahalel, l'shabeach, l'fa'er, l'roimim, lahader, levarech, la'alei.
This is Nusach Ashken.
Sfard is shorter? The night of the Seder, Sfard is shorter? I don't know about that. Yeah? That would be a new one. Anyway, the Ben Ish Chai says, why are there 7 Lashonos? We're thanking Hashem for Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael is the land of the Shiva Amamin, the land of the 7 nations. But I don't know what his girsa was. I should have brought the Ben Ish Chai's Haggadah, then I would have seen what his girsa is. One more thing. We pick up the second kais, and we say, this is still in Lefikach. Haitzianu me'avdus l'cheros, he took us out from servitude to freedom. Miyaga and the Simcha, from sorrow to joy. Me'eva l'yamtav, from mourning to yamtiv. Me'afela l'argadol, u'mishiba l'gula. Why do we have 5 expressions? Says the Ben Ish Chai. He doesn't quote the Zohar, but this comes from the Zohar HaKadosh. It's a gratitude, keneged the 5 chalakim of the neshama. What are the 5 chalakim of the neshama? It's called Narnechi, Naran Chai, Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, Yechida. The Gemara in Bracha says, Amar Rav Shimon bar Yochai, David HaMelech lived in 5 worlds, and he sang Shira in all of them. He lived in the world of, in his mother's womb, when he was born, when he nursed, when he saw the downfall of the Rishayim, and the day of death. The Pnei Yeshua says these 5 worlds correspond to the 5 levels of the soul. When a person is created, he has a nefesh, a living spirit. In his mother's womb, how do you kick? You have a living spirit. When you're born, you have ruach, you can breathe. When you nurse, you get a neshama. Bar mitzvah, you're chayiv in mitzvahs, that's the downfall of the Yetzer Hara, chaya. On the day of death, you get the highest level neshama, that's yechida. And this is a reference to, by the way, David HaMelech says 5 times, Baruchi nafshi es Hashem, keneged, nefesh ruach neshama chaya yechida. Says the Ramami Pano, the gematria of Baruchi nafshi es Hashem is nefesh ruach neshama chaya yechida. Every morning when you wake up and you say the 5 words, Baruch Hashem Havarach Li'olam Va'ed, you get these 5 chalakim back. What do you do if you didn't hear those words? Well, make sure you get to Shachris tomorrow, because you want to get all 5 chalakim back. So that's why we have 5 expressions of Haidah, Haitzianu Me'avdas Acherus, and so on and so forth. These are 10 Chidushim of the Ben Ish Chai. So you'll ask, but there are 11. So only say 10 of them then, okay? Get down at least 10 of them. And these are some beautiful ideas from the Ben Ish Chai. I wish everybody a Chag Kosher V'Sameach. And of course, this year, the Shabbos Haggadah Drasha is 6 p.m. at 530 Peninsula Boulevard. You don't want to miss it. So let's say you say, I have to go to a different shul. Try to get like a statue that looks like you. You park it in your shul. Make your way to 530 Peninsula at 6 p.m. and hope to see everybody there. wish everybody a Chag Kosher V'Sameach. We should be Zoiche. Be'ezus Hashem, B'Nisan Nigalu, V'Nisan Asidin Ligal, B'Tesvav B'Nisan Nigalu, U'V'Tesvav B'Nisan Asidin Ligal. Agun Yom Tov everyone, Chag Kosher V'Sameach.